Hey, welcome back to a brand new video. It's me, Yamo ASAP. And today I want to talk about something that has been on my mind for the past week or so. There's this guy who goes by the name of Harmon Smith, and he claims that Metroid Prime 4 will be better than Doom: The Dark Ages. First of all, both games aren't even out yet. We don't know if either one's gonna be trash, if both of them gonna be as great as each other, or both of them are gonna be just, fucking trash. But this guy is hell-bent, and he believes 100% that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be better than Doom: The Dark Ages, because I don't even think he is a Metroid fan to begin with. He's just 100% biased towards anything Nintendo. Now, don't get the wrong idea at all. I am a Metroid fan. I am a hardcore Metroid fan. I want Metroid Prime 4 to be the best game of all time, as much as the next guy next to me. But I also love Doom. Both games are freaking awesome. Both franchises are amazing, and I just wish they can coexist with each other. And I feel like that's what the community has been trying to do with all the fan art, the animations, the discussions. It's just a minority of people who are like Metroid versus Doom 100% of the time, and that kind of pisses me off. Can't the games just coexist with each other? But enough of my rambling. Let's hear what the man, the myth, the legend, Harmon Smith, the #1 video game critic of all time, has to say about this topic.
So we all know that Nintendo absolutely won this June game showcase season, right? They stopped PlayStation, they stopped Xbox, they stopped Ubisoft, they stopped like the entire Marvel Ultimate Alliance of other competitors that were coming out trying to sell you on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, right? Nintendo came out and just proved that their 7-year-old console is still like the market leader, and will continue to be so for quite some time.
So to those who don't know what he's talking about, recently in June there was a summer game fest happening where a lot of the major studios had showcases similar to the Nintendo Direct. You had the Xbox showcase, you had the Sony State of Play, Ubisoft Connect, just all sorts of stuff, right? And recently, Nintendo just did the Nintendo Direct, which had a bunch of great games, I'm not gonna lie. But to say they stomped on every single company is nothing short of a biased statement. The reason why I say that is because Xbox had a very, very good showcase, showing heavy hitters like Black Ops 6, Gears of War, a new Life is Strange, State of Decay 3, and Metal Gear 3 Remake, with Perfect Dark, and of course, Doom: The Dark Ages. And also, PlayStation showed a new Astro's Playroom, which looked very cool, I'm not gonna lie. It looked like Super Mario, but for the PlayStation. And then also, Monster Hunter Wilds, which I'm always super excited for.
Which is why you're seeing so many people like adamant that like, oh, Nintendo's gonna replace the Switch soon. They need it to happen so PlayStation and Xbox are in a stronger position.
Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Now, he has no sources for these claims whatsoever, but one short thing I can say is that 9 times out of 10, Nintendo does not care what Sony or Microsoft are doing with their consoles. They're really just trying to get their big victory lap before the Switch ends.
Right. So, yeah. It's right now people are coping and seething about this. I talked about this already.
I'm sorry, but who is coping about this topic? Like, really? No, I don't think anybody really cares. I think the only thing that people are talking about today is the difficulty of the Elden Ring DLC. That's hard. It's very freaking hard. And that is all I'm hearing. And I can say for one thing, like a few months ago, I saw that people were regretting buying a PlayStation because the PlayStation has no games. Like, I don't think anybody's really coping about the Nintendo Switch, selling well. We already knew that. It's a cheap console, it has Nintendo games, it's gonna be meant for everybody. The Switch Lite also contributes to the sales of the Switch. I think people saw that coming miles away.
Is Metroid Prime 4 going to be better than Doom: The Dark Ages? Yes, absolutely.
It's only been 1 month, and we have 1 trailer for Metroid Prime 4 and 1 trailer for Doom: The Dark Ages. How in the world can anybody say that one game is going to be better than the other based off of 1 trailer? one freaking trailer from each game. That's just lunacy. Man, the fanboyism is really showing in this video.
There is no doubt in my mind that Metroid is a far stronger, more relevant, more successful franchise than Doom.
So Harmon here claims that Metroid is a more successful and influential franchise than Doom, which is far from the truth. While, yes, Metroid has some of its historical moments, like the reveal of Samus being a woman, and Super Metroid kickstarting a whole genre named after itself, you cannot say that Doom did not launch the first-person shooter genre into greater heights. Without Doom, there wouldn't be Quake. Without Quake, everything else wouldn't exist. Even Metroid Prime, sadly. But I'm not here to undermine the success of Metroid Prime, or Metroid as a whole. It is a successful franchise. In Google Trends, when Metroid Prime 4 was revealed, it peaked higher than the day that Doom the Dark Ages was revealed. That's because Metroid Prime 4 has had 7 years of silence and 17 years since we had a new Metroid Prime game. You compare that to Doom Eternal coming out 4 years ago, and you can see why there's like not as much hype as Prime 4. So it's not because one game is doing better than the other. It's because one of the games, there was a drought of content. Metroid Prime 4 has had nothing for 7 whole years. And 17 years of no Metroid Primes at all, except for Federation Force, but you know, who the fuck likes that game, right? And then you have Doom. It had Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal in 8 years. So of course Metroid Prime is going to have more eyes on it because it's almost baffling that the game even exists.
Metroid Dread was hugely successful. Prime 4 will build off of that success.
Now, to say Metroid Dread was hugely successful is almost an overstatement. Compared to other Nintendo IPs, while it did outsell the original Metroid Prime with 3 million units sold, for it being on a Nintendo Switch is almost chump change compared to the likes of Zelda and Mario, both selling over 20 million copies. But if we're comparing Metroid Dread to Doom Eternal sold around 5 million copies on Steam alone. But at the end of the day, none of this matters, because you know why? These games are 2 different franchises. Like, who cares?
To the point where I honestly expect that like Prime 2 and 3 Remastered will continue to build off the Metroid IP. Will continue like just growing the franchise to the point where like the franchise is no longer considered like niche, right?
Harmon, my guy. You just said Metroid Dread was hugely successful. Now it's a niche franchise? What happened to Metroid being this huge franchise known by everyone?
Because this has always been like the real problem with Metroid, right? Is that like the games are really critically beloved. You know, people love them. They are really popular Nintendo games among like the core Nintendo audience.
Okay, so now it's within the core Nintendo audience, not even just the general Nintendo audience. It is the core, the inner Nintendo audience, the ones that just care about every single Nintendo franchise. How the heck is this helping your argument on how this is a better franchise than Doom?
But like outside of that, you don't have a lot of people who pick them up on whims, and you don't have a lot of casual players, and you have this weird tendency among like general audiences to kind of write off every game that isn't Super or Prime.
So now he's making the Metroid general audience sound like a bunch of elitists who only prefer the super non-linear, get lost 100% of the time with 0 to no storytelling, self-pride gamers. Which is far from the truth. I consider myself a hardcore Metroid fan. No matter how you look at it, I am crazy for that freaking franchise. And I can confidently tell you that Super Metroid is not on my top 3 best Metroid games. Isn't that a shocker? I can actually give you the top 3. It goes to Metroid Prime, Metroid Dread, and Metroid Prime 2, with AM2R being a runner-up. But if you don't consider AM2R a official Metroid game, which is totally fine because that is a fan game, I will put Zero Mission where AM2R is. And do you want to know where I have Super Metroid at? It's my 6th best Metroid game. And what's on top of that one? Metroid Prime 3, baby!
Right. I've talked about this before, but like people love like banging on about how Metroid is their favorite Nintendo IP and how it's so good and stuff like that, and yet like every single Metroid release kind of goes underappreciated in the grand scheme of things, right? It took a long time for Dread to be seen as being on par with Super.
I mean, from what I remember correctly, Metroid Dread was actually doing very good. That some people put it on the top of their list over Super Metroid. Hell, it even won Best Action Game of 2021. And you telling me that Metroid Dread didn't do as well as Super? Honestly, I think it did better. It freaking outsold Metroid Prime in its first year. Like, does that not tell you anything?
You know, Prime 3 was disrespected back in the day. Prime 2 got a lot of flack. You know, we went into Prime 1 being told by game journals, they're like, oh, this game is going to be terrible. Like, we were told that, right? Metroid Fusion was attacked back in the day, you know, and there are like fringe fanboys who will tell you that like Super like completely misses the point of the original Metroid because it has a map. You know, like there has always been this weird like mindset among fans that Metroid should be a very, very specific thing, a hardcore game franchise for hardcore gamers, and yet they never seem to turn out for it, right?
Now, this statement is somewhat true, but the only thing is that this is not just a problem with Metroid. This is not a Metroid-specific problem. This is a problem with every single franchise, and this is the elitist mindset that I just mentioned. This is the problem with Elden Ring. This is the problem with Doom. This is even a problem with Mario. Look at the speedrunning community. Every single community has that minority of elitists that tell you that this is the wrong way to play and this is the right way to play. And the simple thing to do is just ignore them, and it won't be a freaking problem.
Like, you don't see the blind worship for Metroid.
Now, if I recall, you did say a lot of people say that Metroid is their favorite Nintendo IP, but never liked the new Metroid games. Like, did you not just say that? Is that not blind worship? Dude, how you gonna back up on what you just said?
That you see for like something like Doom Eternal, right? Because Doom Eternal was like pure crap.
Doom Eternal? Pure crap? Harmon, please explain to us how you think that Doom Eternal is pure crap.
But you're seeing a lot of people like come out and try to say it was like one of the best first-person shooters ever and one of the best games ever made, and like a really good like way to cap off the Doom franchise. Like, oh, it's the best ever.
So let me guess. You probably never played Doom Eternal, and what you just said, it being crap, was most likely a blind statement. And let me go ahead and make this simple for you, bro. To understand how a game gets praised, first, the game has to be good. That's the end of the story. The reason why Elden Ring is praised it's just praised. It's because it's a well-built game. It's a good game. That's the end of the freaking story. It doesn't have to get more complex than that. You make good game, you get praised for it.
Like, you don't see that with Metroid.
I mean, you've been on the internet, right? You look like a guy who is terminally on the internet. How many people has told you, specifically you, that Metroid Prime Remastered is the best looking game on the Switch? Because, you know, I've heard that statement a lot. I've heard that statement quite a few times, that this is the best looking game on the Switch. Or how Super Metroid is still one of the best Metroidvanias. The games do get praised. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Metroid not getting the praise it deserves. It still does get its praise. Case in point, Metroid Dread getting Best Action Game of the Year. Literally just said that. Another case in point, when Metroid Prime Remastered was revealed, it just got straight 10 out of 10s from every single journalist. You know why? Because Metroid Prime is a good game. Like I said, make good game, get praised for it.
And in a lot of ways, I'm like glad for that, because you know it allows people to time to process these things and play and evaluate the older games and have like a firm, nuanced opinion of what's happening with the franchise and the brand and the developers and stuff like that. Like Metroid is just, you know, it's better not to pretend that every single thing that comes out is now like the best thing ever.
You know, this is actually far from the truth. And since we're on the topic of Doom, I'm only going to be talking about Doom. Back before Doom in 2016, there was a prototype Doom called Doom 4. And boy, let me tell you, fans were not happy with what they were looking at. This is just, it's Call of Duty. It looks like a shitty Call of Duty game made by Ubisoft. Like, I'm not gonna lie. This was a horrible way to rebrand Doom. And them making the jump back to 2016 was the best thing they could do. The best. Because if this was going to be the direction Doom was going, it would have failed. Not gonna lie. We already have an overabundance of shooters like this, and we just don't need any more. I'm not gonna lie to you. And they made a good call. They scrapped this and went for what we have today, which is the modern Doom games.
On the other hand, like, it is kind of frustrating when, like, games like Metroid Dread do become hugely successful, do become popular.
If you care about the franchise this much to make an entire video like this, why would you care that Metroid Dread becomes hugely successful? Why is that frustrating? Is it because you're like if you're one of the elitists, just say that, bro. That's all you gotta say. It shouldn't matter if the franchise is selling well. You should be happy that it's selling well.
Like, I believe Metroid Dread is the best-selling Metroid game ever at this point, right?
Duh!
And yet, is anybody acknowledging that?
Yes!
Is anybody acknowledging how good it was?
Mm-hmm.
How it has, like, the best antagonist in the series history?
Ravenbeak!
That it has, like, some of the best gameplay mechanics, and it's like...
Oh my god, Samus feels so good to control!
Again, there's so many, like, aspects to Metroid Dread that make it spectacular, but it got written off for petty, inconsequential reasons.
I myself do not remember Metroid Dread getting written off for any petty consequence or reason, except for the music was lacking. And honestly, let me be completely honest. I think the music of Metroid Dread is great. I don't know, I might have a weird taste, but I think the music in Metroid Dread is cool.
Again, like, it's a give or take kind of thing. Like, you know, I wish Metroid got more praise for what it was. I wish more people noticed how good, like, games like Metroid Dread, and No More Heroes 3, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 were. Like, those were...
But you just said it would be frustrating if it was. Dog, make up your mind.
But, now, like...
You couldn't edit this part out?
I don't know, when I compare it to what happened with Doom, you know, like, people just, like, sitting there on their YouTube channels trying to tell you that, like, this is the best game, like...
Now, this is a pretty hypocritical statement, if I do say so myself. It's a problem when Doom fans try to persuade you to play Doom, but not a problem when you try to say Metroid is better than Doom? Like, what?
It's absurd. It really is patently absurd, and it really should be called out more, if anything. But yeah, like, Metroid Prime 4, I think, assuming it's even just, like, a copy of what they did with Metroid Prime 1, because Metroid Prime 1 is still better than, like, the modern Doom games.
Now, I would say his opinion could be valid, right? But I truly believe that this man has not touched a single Doom game besides Doom on the Nintendo 64, because it's on the Nintendo 64.
Assuming Metroid Prime 4 is exactly like the older Prime games, it's gonna be better than Doom, for sure. You know, because those games had creative boss designs, amazing environments, like stellar music, you know, great animations, all these great unique mechanics. Like, Prime just really is an innovator when it comes to first-person adventure games, right? Doom, all you do is, like, run around in circles and, like, shoot the same generic enemies all throughout.
And this is how I know he's never played a Doom game besides Doom 60. I don't even think he played Doom 64. Now, I've played the original Metroid Prime a good number of times. More times than I can even count. I've beaten it every single time I played it. And I can safely say that Metroid Prime is not the perfect game that Harmon here claims it to be. The combat isn't anything to write home about, and you're also fighting the same type of enemy throughout the game. You know, your typical space pirate, your typical, you know, alien, and then there's the fucking Chozo ghost. So I'm not even gonna get into that. The fetch quest is horrible, especially for a first time playthrough. Now, for me, the fetch quest is not bad anymore because I know what every single artifact is, right? And then the bosses, again, they're not anything to write home about, except for the first boss in Chozo Ruins. But the rest of the bosses are like pretty much bullet sponges, and that's pretty much it. The music is awesome though. I'll give him that. The music, the environment. There's a lot right with Metroid Prime, but you know, there's a lot of things that are also fixed in a later Prime series. So, like I said, the Chozo Ghost, fuck them so much. I hate Chozo Ghost, like with the passion. Hate the Chozo Ghost. It's the worst part about Metroid Prime.
But with Metroid, you're going through all these unique environments, traversing them in unique ways, encountering like unique enemies. Like, it's embarrassing, honestly, how much better that like a game from 2002 is compared to like the 2016 Doom game, right? Like, it's crazy how much better Metroid manages to do the same kind of like thing. Manages to do its thing better than Doom does, right? Like, it's really not even close.
So you're telling me that Metroid does what Doom does, but better? Especially the 2016. I honestly cannot believe this statement is. I can't even believe he said this statement. The games are nothing alike. They're bro. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the intros of both games. Let's look at Metroid Prime and Doom 2016. And you will see that these are polar opposites of what. Fuck it, man. Let me just go ahead and explain. So, Doom 2016 has you wake up out of a coffin, and then the first thing you do is smash a demon's head in. Then, you pick up your pistol and acquire your Praetor suit, which causes these metal-ass images, which, by the way, is so freaking cool every time I see it. It's like, what the hell am I looking at? Then moments later, the Slayer gets a message from someone by the name of Dr. Samuel Hayden. But he doesn't care what Dr. Samuel Hayden has to say because he just pushes the monitor out of the way because he can care less. He just wants to kill demons.
I'm Dr. Samuel Hayden. I'm the head of this facility. I think we can work together and resolve this problem in a way that benefits us both.
Ah, how sweet. That is such a kind gesture from the Doomslayer, you know? He gets a message from somebody, he just pushes this shit out of the way. It's so nice, you know? Very poetic. So after that, the game puts you through these hallways where it's infested by, you know what? Demons. And this is where the game gives you information about glory kills, which is combat focused and one of the main mechanics of the game. And then you get your second weapon and very early in the game. It's just your basic shotgun. You enter a room with a very bloody and fleshy looking altar. You walk up to it and you destroy what seems to be its heart. Moments later, you hear a very demonic scream, and then your first wave of imps show their faces. This gives you an understanding of what's to come for the rest of the game. Explore, get bigger weapons, come across small arenas, survive, kill demons, get stronger. Once you complete the trial, you then enter an elevator, which causes one of my favorite intro cutscenes of all time.
I'm willing to take full responsibility for the horrible events of the last 24 hours, but you must understand. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
This entire intro sequence is almost perfect. It gives the game its personality. It gives the game its identity. The game knows what it wants the player to feel in just the first 10 minutes of the game, while also being very engaging. Then we look at Metroid Prime's intro sequence. Starts with a distress signal from an unknown space vessel that orbits the planet Talon 4. You receive images of space. Moments later, the camera pans over a planet which can be assumed is Talon 4 after reading the distress signal, and just a few seconds later, we get a view of the unknown space vessel, which confirms our assumption about the planet. Samus then appears in her gunship as triumphant familiar music plays as she prepares to land at the docking bay. The game then wants you to shoot red targets using the lock-on system, which is far from what any traditional shooter would implement in their games. Yet, this is the main mechanic for combat. Then seconds later, the game shows you about using the scan visor, which gives you information from scanning the environment around you. A less combat-focused and more information and explorative mechanic. You then enter the space vessel, which introduces the player to these claustrophobic hallways and dead corpses of aliens that are unknown to the player. As you progress through the space vessel, you come across this room where the music stops playing and you find more dead bodies left at this specific door, which could mean that there is something on the other side. You enter the room, which starts a small cutscene. Samus goes down an automatic platform, staying alert, and moments later, your first boss fight starts. The alien seems just like the giant corpse from the beginning of the vessel. If you choose to scan the monster, you'll come to learn that it is called the Parasite Queen. Once Samus mows it down with her arm cannon, it falls into what it seems to be an engine of the vessel, destroying it, which causes an escape sequence. As you make your escape, you come face to face with the series' main antagonist, Ridley. This moment right here makes the player question what's to come next. Why is Ridley here? And how big of an operation is this really? With little to no time to comprehend what's happening, moments later, a destructive explosion happens right on top of Samus, dealing a great number of damage, causing her to lose all of her abilities, except her basic power beam. As you make your final escape, you see Samus chase after Ridley as the space vessel is destroyed to pieces. And moments later after this, one of my favorite intro cutscenes of all time plays. This is almost the perfect intro to a video game. Just like Doom 2016. Both games just know how to set the atmosphere. They know how to set the stage. They know what players are looking for in both of the games. While both games are very, very good, especially with their intros, they're still vastly different. Yes, you know, both games do share DNA, first person, a superhuman in a space armor. You know, Doom 2016 has the Codex, which gives you information about the environment, but that can be ignored throughout the whole entire game, and it's not a major focus. They're both vastly different, and that can be seen from both of these intros I just showed you. Doom 2016 is loud, fast-paced, has plenty of dialogue. You gain your first weapon, is combat-focused. Wow, Metroid Prime is quiet, slower paced. It has little to no dialogue. You lose all of your main abilities, and it's exploration and information first. Both games can coexist with each other.
But like, again, casual versus hardcore, right? You know, the casual Doom fan can't appreciate the nuances, the depths, and the complexity of like the hardcore Metroid game, right?
If we're being real, this is just fanboy talk. He's using hardcore and casual in the same sentence.
People think, you know, getting high scores from game journals or like selling up a zillion copies somehow makes a game better.
This is far from the truth. Look at every IGN review.
And then, like, you know, Animal Crossing New Horizons becomes like the most mainstream game on the planet, and it loses the Game of the Year award to The Last of Us Part 2.
You know what else lost that Game of the Year award? Final Fantasy VII Remake, Doom Eternal, and Ghost of Tsushima, which are all stellar games in their own right. The Game Awards is rigged, and I think we all already knew that part. But what does this have to do with Doom versus Metroid?
Doom might sell better, it might get higher review scores. It might be more talked about among like, you know, young men, right? It might have like a, you know, oh, it's made by Bethesda. It might be like, it might have all the hype, all the enthusiasm, all like the propaganda.
This shit does not matter. What matters is what's the more enjoyable experience. Let's look at Fortnite for a second. This game, without a doubt, is the most popular game of all time. It's the most talked about between young men. And yet, I can almost guarantee you that no one will say that Fortnite is better than Elden Ring. These are two totally different games. The only reason that Elden Ring gets the praise that it does is because it is a good game, just like Doom and Metroid.
Right, game journos are going to get behind it, right? But long term, it's going to have to compete with Metroid.
Newsflash, Doom and Metroid are not in competition. Can you believe that? You can get all the mainline Doom games and Metroid games on Nintendo Switch. To further back up my claim, on October 8th, 2021, Bethesda congratulated Nintendo on the launch of Metroid Dread and posted this. If you have no idea what this is and you think, oh, this is just a Doom Slayer just standing in front of the shit, like what's so special about this? Well, this is actually a reference to the Metroid Dread cover art. So you go ahead and tell me if Metroid and Doom are at their throats right now. Just based off of that evidence right there. Just tell me, are they going at each other right now? I have no idea. I'm clueless.
From a better studio, from a more discerning audience, right? An audience that actually respects, you know, quality games and will actually put the time and effort into playing all sorts of things from different developers and different genres.
So what if I'm a fan of Doom and Metroid, huh? Am I, like, what am I? Am I somebody who just fucks with Doom? Like, or am I the person who is a respectable gamer and fucks with every single genre I play? Like, dude, you can't just sit here and divide communities like that, bro. That's like, bro, can we not just coexist with each other? Like, come on, this is baffling, bro.
Right, like something like Doom, you know, the most basic entry-level FPS franchise there is.
By the way, no joke, his ideal game of a shooter is Splatoon.
Like, this is going to be a repeat, I think, of
Yo, we got a Harmon.exe malfunctioning over here. Like, what the heck? Did you not choose to edit this part out? And then that you barely drank any of that water. Come on, man.
Of what happened with Rayman Legends versus New Super Mario Bros. U, right? People don't remember this, but like the narrative when Rayman Legends first came out was that like, oh, it's way better than New Super Mario Bros. U. Ubisoft just hit it out of the park. Nintendo can no longer compete in the 2D platformer space. And what happens? That was the last Rayman game ever produced. Michael Ansel left the company. The IP is in limbo.
Okay, but I've kind of had enough of this guy. I'm not gonna lie. To sum it up, for him, if it ain't Nintendo, it's shit. It's garbage. It's not worth your time. It's not worth his time. It needs to go to where ET is at. ET for the Atari, pretty much. If it ain't Nintendo, it's garbage. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is actually a lot longer than I expected it to be. Very much appreciate if you guys would hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment literally anything. It'll make my day. Anyways, who's ready for Metroid Doom 2025? Let's freaking go!